So we're here with Jim Fletcher, who has a new show in our main gallery called Reactions. Jim Fletcher is from Pelican Rapids. He was a former art teacher at the high school there. So welcome, Jim.
Thank you.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about the inspiration for your show and some of your work?
Well, yeah, I suppose. I called the show Reactions, and I have in the past also, because it's all of my art is basically reaction to things that I see. And I love nature, I love the forest. I grew up as a kid in the wilderness pretty much, and out in Connecticut where I grew up. And I grew up on the edge of a humongous state forest. And so that was my playground and hunting for the rest of my life, pretty much, So I still love that. And while in the forest as a kid, I was noticing things that would attract my attention. And I would react to them, and so as a child I would draw. I'd constantly be drawing things that I would see. I love trees, and a lot of my exhibits I'll have different unusual trees because I'm struck by them. It's like people. You meet interesting people and you remember them when you walk away. Trees are like that for me also, because I see a really unique tree and I'll go back to it again, or I won't forget it, and then I'll go back and I'll draw it up and sketch it, maybe put it in a different environment and drawing and whatnot. So a lot of my work is spontaneous. And many years ago at Maplewood State Park, I snuck into the park and I began hiding little clay buildings in the wilderness in the park. And I had my students help me build a 1,000 square foot city that we hid in the woods. And while we were doing that together, I was hiding other things in another city in the woods. And I hid an underwater city at the bottom of the lake. And so while I was doing all of that, I started developing a story around that. So I wrote the War Adventure trilogy, which deals with all that stuff in the park. And so I published those books. And while working in the wilderness, in the woods and everything, I noticed all these flowers and things winking at me. And so I got interested in these flowers. And I don't know one flower from another, basically, but they were very unique. And so I would go back and I would sketch them up from memory. And so I began a series called Minnesota Wildflowers. And the Arboretum in Minneapolis asked me to do a show there. And so I took down Native American dance and Minnesota wildflowers for an exhibit down in the cities, down at the Arboretum. And ever since working in Maplewood State Park, I got involved with interest in Native American culture and history. And so I was coming up with a book idea for a book that I wrote called The Last Race, about the Mandan Indians. And so I began researching and studying the Mandan Indian. And then my son and I, when he was really young, went up to North Dakota, visited with the elders, and went up to Fort Berthold area and all around that area. And I was just studying the Mandan Indian. It was really kind of fun. And we were having a blast. We were camping out and everything, And the elders and the people there took to me right away, and we started talking. And so I started writing the novel, The Last Race. And while writing, I met a man by the name of Edwin Benson. He was the last person who spoke fluently the Mandan language. He and his sister, Luella Youngbear, were the only two actually that spoke the Mandan language. But Edwin was fluent, and he was working with Minot State University and the Fort Berthold Community College up in Newtown, I guess it was. And I visited with him, and he helped me with the language for some of the things, interpretations for the book, The Last Race. Very gracious guy. I loved him. I mean, it's just fun. And we would laugh and carry on together and whatnot while he's writing things down, I'm writing things down. And it was really a wonderful time. But anyway, he was very grateful that I published this book, and of course I gave him a copy, and he sent me acknowledgments. And while there, I went to, my wife and I, Dee and I, went to the Little Shell Powwow at Fort Berthold. And it was an amazing 3-day powwow. we stuck around the whole time. And I was just getting into the Native American dance, and I started doing dance images. And when I first started, well, Paul Albright, a former student of mine, and I went up to Cass Lake powwow. It was really cool because we go into the woods and you hear this boom, 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 boom coming through the trees and everything. So we walked into the woods and people are camping and everything. You could smell the cooking going on in the forest. It's all in the woods and everything. And then we broke into this clearing and high-pitched singing and all of that going on with the drum beats, and it was just penetrating. You could feel it in your heart going boom, boom, you know. And wow, this is awesome. And so I did my first on-site sketches, Native American dance. And when I first started, I was trying to capture the regalia and the human form in the regalia and everything, kind of like a still photograph. And no, this just doesn't capture the soul of the dance, you know. So I started working spontaneously, and I was letting the rhythms, the drums and the singing carry my hand. And so I started doing more swirling movements, following the dancers and whatnot, you know. And then when the grass dancers came out, it was amazing, you know. And then the fancy shawl dancers came out. It was kind of, oh, this is a mind blow, and just couldn't keep up, you know. So I must have done, I don't know how many pictures, drawings, 50, 60 or something.
Wow.
And then I just stayed with it. And the last powwow we went to was up in Fargo. I can't remember the name of it. Crossroads powwow. Mm-hmm. And that was amazing. That was really fun. But there's nothing like the dancing in the woods, in the wilderness, you know, or out in the open fields and things like that. And so my art stemmed from when I was a child, growing up in the woods and discovering nature and looking at things that they were mysteries to me, mm-hmm. and exploring. And I love, to this day, I love trees, unique trees with knot holes and stuff. I still hide trinkets and baubles and stuff inside these holes in trees, you know. And that all stemmed from the Lore Adventure trilogy that I wrote, you know, and hiding things in the woods. So I guess I'm kind of crazy.
Well, you create beautiful art. And you use a variety of mediums, so acrylic a lot, right? Oil and...
Yeah, I do, and I love oils. Oils take a lot longer to dry, and I like to work in a little bit more, but most of my work is spontaneous around the gallery too, you know. Things are kind of loose, they're not real tight and that sort of thing. Some things are, but yeah, I like watercolor because of its spontaneity, and I use a lot of ink and watercolor together. And what I'm getting into right now is pastel and oils together.
All together.
Yeah, and they work out great. It's a great combination, and it's just a lot of fun. I really enjoy doing this. You know, I enjoy
creating.
Yeah, I guess creating. Yeah, whatever. Reacting. That's exactly right. Yeah.
So you taught for many years. I know we've had a lot of students come in, former students of yours, art students, and they've all experienced how much they loved having you as a teacher.
Oh, that's nice. I love them.
Yeah,
the kids they were just amazing. I just love kids.
Yeah.
And this, you had one student, and I've had some great kids in class, and some have really gone on and done wondrous things. Paul Albright's a wood sculptor, and he does fantastic stuff. I mean, it's humbling just to look at some of his pieces. Pam Hovland is a former student. She's been in the gallery, I've noticed. Mm-hmm. And she teaches art at Yale. Yeah. And so these kids have carried on, and it's fun to watch. It's fun to see.
How long did you teach in Pelican?
28 years. I've taught 30 years total.
Oh.
Yeah, so I started teaching when I was 9, so now I'm 39.
Look great.
Braces.
So the books you've written, how many books? 3 books?
4 books.
4 books.
Yeah, and I love writing. I mean, I just love writing. when I was teaching in school, I would always boot the assignment with a story, and just make them up as I go along, and crazy stories, fun stories, and the kids would get into them. And so oftentimes, you know, I'd work up to a climax, to the end of a story I'm making up, you know. I'd get right to the end and I'd be watching the clock. And then I'd see the clock and then the bell would go off and I'd go, oh, sorry. I can't end this. And they would just boo. They would get so upset with me. Then they'd come back and I couldn't remember the story I was telling, so yeah, I never got back to it.
Just teasing them.
And they were teasers also. I mean, they were fun. They were good kids.
Oh, good.
And they were so disciplined. I mean, they were competitive, and they were really serious about their art. A great experience I had is I was asked to teach at a pilot program for the Minnesota High School for the Arts and for the legislature and whatnot. When the school was just developing and they wanted me to teach there. So I went down with a couple of kids the first time, and then the second time I think I just went down and taught. And then the school is now the Purpose School of Art. And that was just a great experience. And then they asked me if I would come down and be a curriculum developer for visual arts.
Oh, wow.
And I declined that because the kids were young, and the school, Pelican, is a great school, and I thought, no, I'm not going to go down to the cities and start a new adventure teaching or writing curriculum. I just like to get in and get my hands dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So,
By the way, this is a beautiful gallery, and I understand they'll have a virtual tour.
yes. Yep.
Awesome, because people should see the gallery. It's great. And Jess and Amanda do a fantastic job. I mean, Jess is a great curator, and Amanda runs a nice ship, and it's a wonderful place to visit, and it's a very comfortable place.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have a virtual tour available. The gentleman will come to shoot it tomorrow,
Okay.
so it should be available on Thursday.
Oh, really?
Yep.
That's soon. Okay.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to talk about?
Well,
Where do you see yourself going? Like, do you think you'll continue creating
oh yeah.
artwork, and you're moving and you're using pastels and?
Sure, and the main subject matters for me are landscape type things, you know. And when I go into Maplewood State Park, you know, I don't copy things. I don't take pictures and copy photographs or anything like that. I go in and I'll look and I'll be struck by something, and I'll look at it and I'll let it burn in. Then I'll go home and I'll just go from memory. And you can't recreate nature, you know. So everything has got to be spontaneous through me, and try to get out the excitement of what I've seen and witnessed and that sort of thing. Same with the wildflowers. And the dances are just, they're something else.
Right.
And one thing great about the Native American dance is it's so family oriented. The kids, so many of the kids make their own regalia, you know, and the girls, they sew their own stuff. The guys, they do all their own things. These kids do, and they're just beautiful, you know. And it's so much fun to be around them and visit with them because they're just so enthusiastic about their dancing and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I started the series. I call it the Great American Dance, and I continue with it. You know, I'll keep going to some powwows and that sort of thing, and I'll keep writing. And I got one in the hopper now that I can't get to because I'm busy doing other things. But, yeah. My brother Roger was hoping could be here during my show here. He's a wonderful writer, just a fantastic writer. And he wrote a book, The History of the Wooden Drift Boat and the River Dories.
Oh.
And it's fabulous. It's a big tabletop book, and it's just full of history. And he's just a superb writer. He's been a major influence in my life also. He's just been very creative and outdoorsy. He loves drifting rivers and fly fishing and all that. And so I love my fly fishing.
Oh, do you?
Oh yeah.
Do you go fly fishing around here?
Well, I used to, yeah, I do. I used to take my kids when they were young up to the Northern National Forest, up into the rivers up there. And so my son and I first started going up together, and we'd camp, and I would take them out and teach them fly fishing. And then my granddaughter wanted to go, so we took my granddaughter up. And yeah, it's fun. There's nothing like, I like standing in the water because then you're negotiating the current against you at the same time, whipping the fly and finding the holes and letting the current help out or destroy you.
It's been a pleasure to hang your show, and it's just beautiful work. Everyone needs to stop in soon and see it, or check out the virtual tour that's going to happen and be up soon.
I appreciate and I thank you, for doing all of this. It's wonderful. Love the gallery. I miss Charlie Beck. I miss him terribly. But I will see Joyce and Carolyn tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to stop in here and visit a little bit. You're looking forward to that. Yeah. Not as much as I am, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It'll be great.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Jim. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Jess. I appreciate it.
Okay.